Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is our other host, Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. I have been playing some things, and I have finished Stray, so we can talk about that. Last week we decided to table the discussion until I had finished it, so we'll have that at some point in the show, but I'm also very excited to talk more about No Man's Sky later, but we have some news to get to first.
I'm excited to talk to you about something, but we'll talk about it in the back half of the show. Speaking of tabled conversations, I watched a movie that I'd like to discuss with you briefly that I think you will have some thoughts on.
Okay, I'm excited to hear what it is.
Well, tease for the second half of the show.
I'm so teased. Okay, go ahead.
Let's talk about some news. Got a couple things. I just threw in some random stuff that I saw. I don't know about you, but throughout the week, I have a Google Keep of just like random news stories that I see, and then I look back at them as we're about to record and dump them into the show notes. And sometimes I have forgotten what I have written down. And so I just like dump them in and I have to revisit things. But
I was going to say, I usually just create the new show notes doc. And if I see something, I'll just dump it in there right away.
Maybe I should just go directly to, I don't know. I like that in Keep now you can customize your like pinned card, or I guess any card. So I have like a cool background on my weekly notes for the podcast that I like to revert back to.
Like, I know it lets you color the card, but does it give you like a unique background as well?
Yeah, you can upload like they have like cool graphic illustrations. You might even be able to put custom pictures behind your notes now.
Interesting.
Something background to take a look at.
Ooh, yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
It's very cool. It makes me feel cool whenever I whip it out.
That's awesome.
Microsoft, we all know it, has accused Sony of blocking games from coming to Game Pass.
Yeah, which is interesting because they now have their own sort of subscription service.
Dueling subscriptions.
Yeah. It's not quite the same as Game Pass, but yeah, this kind of popped up one day, like a bunch of articles I saw. GamesIndustry.biz was saying that Microsoft is claiming that Sony has been paying developers to keep their work off of subscription services. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how this plays out, but they're accused of paying for blocking rights, which kind of I feel like that would be a pretty big industry no-no. But
I don't know what Sony's doing these days. I mean, they've been skipping E3, and they feel like they have. I mean, God of War obviously is going to be huge, but Microsoft is really eating their lunch lately as far as like having Starfield and whatnot. And
you can tell that they want to compete with Game Pass, but they keep saying, well, we don't think that that's financially viable to like make our big AAA games and then just give them to, a $10 subscription service, without having people pay full price for it. And now they're just like, here's our subscription service. It doesn't really have like the new latest and greatest things right away, but now we're going to try to pay to block Microsoft from getting games like that for Game Pass. Like they're just not quite figuring it out, like how to actually compete with Game Pass. And now they're turning to underhanded things to try to compete with them, I guess.
It's weird. I don't know what the landscape looks like, to be honest. Like, Sony was so dominant we've talked about this to no end, but Sony was so dominant last generation. Yeah. And now they're it almost seems like they're flailing, even though they do have these big games on the horizon.
I was going to say, like, I find it very difficult to track, like, with the current new generation, like, who's winning that? I guess you'd have to say Microsoft just because of Game Pass, but also, like, Sony still has all the exclusives. If you, like, compare the lineup of, like, compelling exclusive games, like, I'm still buying a PS5 before I buy an Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
I mean, Game Pass is very compelling, but like...
It's hard to find the narrative as far as like who's actually pulling ahead.
It's not as obvious this generation as it has been in previous generations. I think maybe some of it is also that you didn't have like a massive, like, you know, somebody put their foot in their mouth at E3 the way you've had in previous generations. So I don't know. It is definitely more difficult to track. But
maybe we were taking a break when this happened, but did we talk about how there was like news about GTA 6 on the podcast?
I don't recall.
Rockstar was like coming out and saying like, hey, it's on the pipeline, get ready for it. And I think they even confirmed there was maybe this is just a leak that I read, but it was going to take place in, I think, modern day Vice City, and it was going to be like a brother and a sister style, or it's either a brother and a sister, or it's a Bonnie and Clyde type thing where it's
I
like
remember that now.
Two people in a relationship. But I don't know. I have only ever played GTA games on like PlayStations, but it's not an exclusive, right? It's on everything, right?
What did you play GTA 4 on and 5?
4
I was going to say I played those on 360.
Which one was 4? 4 was the New York one. Oh yeah, 4 was the New York one. Yeah, I did play that on 360. 5, I think I waited until... Oh no, I played 5 on 360. Man, that's such an old game.
I know.
I had just assumed I played it on PS4.
You forget it because it's been out for so long, but they just keep like re-releasing it for new hardware crazy. And just keep supporting the online.
You know what? I think I've only... Well, no, I guess I played like GTA 3 on PlayStation, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean... That'll be a big one, but I guess that'll be cross-platform. Whatever Naughty Dog is working on now will be great for PlayStation, but who knows how long that's going to take or what even it's going to be.
Yeah, who knows? But, I mean, I feel like Microsoft is still getting games that don't come directly from, like, one of their studios. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like they're still getting games from outside Microsoft Studios to be on Game Pass, like day and date. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I mean, there's definitely some indie games that have come out that are immediately on Game Pass.
And you'd have to think that they would not be incentivized to do that if it wasn't profitable for them.
Yeah.
As opposed to selling it at whatever their full price would be. So
it makes sense.
I still don't know what's up with Sony not being able to do that, but...
Well, something that Sony does have is Yakuza games.
Yes.
And PlayStation Plus's August offerings are pretty much all Yakuza games. So if you like Yakuza, now is the time to jump. Because they've got Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwame, Kiwame 2, those 3, I think.
I think Like a Dragon might already be on there. I'm not.
It was previously,
positive.
yeah. It was on Game or PS Plus. I think maybe last month or the month before.
Okay, but yeah, I was talking about how I was thinking about Yakuza recently, and I downloaded Yakuza 0 through Game Pass. But if you're like me and you've been thinking about that series and maybe wanting to play more of those games, I guess you can do that through Sony now.
Are you interested in this Metal Slug Tactics? I'm very interested in it.
I am. Yeah, I liked what we saw from those trailers. I like the art style and
love the art style. I love tactics games. I
will definitely pick this up when it comes out, but they did officially delay it to launch in 2023. We know it was supposed to come out this year, but because of world events, they sort of paused the release indefinitely, and now they're just now officially saying it's going to launch next year. So
I'm excited for this. I've been playing a lot of Into the Breach, the new free DLC, and it has got me jonesing for more tactics style gameplay. And while this isn't exactly like Into the Breach, I think is more of a puzzle game than a tactics game. But and the art
it's like
style
a grid-based game still.
Yeah, it's like grid-based. So I'm excited for this whenever it does come out, if it does. Is this coming to Switch? I don't remember.
I think it is, yeah.
It'll be available on Switch and PC. So I will probably pick this up on Switch.
I was going to say, I thought it was maybe even a console exclusive for Switch, but I think
you're right, yeah.
But yeah.
let's talk about Forspoken. Did you see this?
I did not see this.
Forspoken was a cool tech demo back when the PS5 was being unveiled. They were like, check out this Forspoken. And we were like, man, this is cool. You like cool traversal. It seems like there's like weird spells you can do. And then they had the first like story trailer, and everyone kind of took a pause because the dialogue is not great. And then this week they released some videos on Twitter of the main character, I guess, just like explaining her situation. And people are not into it.
Really cringy.
Yes, it's very bad. And it's a bummer because this game looked somewhat cool, but it seems like it's going to be real cringe. Like, it's a game where I wish that you could play it in a different language, and maybe that is a possibility, because I feel like that helps with weird dialogue sometimes. If you're not actually hearing it, you're just reading it.
Yeah.
This, I think, is a problem with a lot of like anime dubs, where if the dub will make it seem like very weird and dumb, but the sub just seems normal. I think I've said this before, but how much of the Cowboy Bebop anime did you, or live action show did you watch? None of it?
I didn't watch the live action at all.
Did you watch that final scene where they unveiled Ed?
I think you sent it to me, and yeah, it was super weird.
It was bad, but I think it would have been better if he was talking Japanese, or she was talking Japanese, speaking Japanese, I should say, and just being subtitled. Because in English, I don't think in live action Ed works as a thing, but as just like a weird little Japanese girl who we're used to seeing that, like I don't know. I think that would have been better.
Like there is something to the fact that like Asian cultures, in particular Japanese culture, like favors like youth and like, you know, being like young people. Like most of their movies and TV shows are about like young people. That's why anime is still popular, even with like adults and everything. And they like among like girls in particular in that culture, like being cute is like a thing that you like they want to preserve as long as possible.
It's not even being cute. It's like
that feeling of youth. And so like when you get something like that from that culture, like in a show or like a game or something, like you don't really think anything about it because it's like pretty common in their culture, whereas that's not the case in the West. So when you see like a Western like actor try to portray that type of a character that was like obviously written and designed by like Japanese people for Japanese people, like you can tell that there's like it rings pretty false when you see it.
It's in bad taste. It's like it's not even being cute. It's sort of, I would almost call it like they have a style of being like hyper emotive, I would say, where all of their, it's almost like they're stage actors where they have to like really open up to the crowd. And for some reason that works for me when it's in a foreign language, specifically Japanese, but when you try to have
also
an American
its
actor
origins is an anime, so it's like a cartoon.
Yeah,
it's not
that's true.
It's not live action. So when you do convert that to live action, it would be, I feel like it's similar when you see other like cartoons try to be like, they try to do like a live action movie. Some characters just don't translate well to live action because they're not, that's not how they were designed in the first place.
Unfortunately, the Forspoken main character doesn't translate well to being a video game character.
I don't think she would translate well to being a movie character either.
It's true. And it would be great if this was in like Spanish or something, or just like, I don't know. I don't know what I want from this, but I don't want to listen to her talk about how she's like in a crazy situation looking at dragons or whatever.
Yeah. It's that thing of where you see something that's like very contemporary, but they're like in something that's like medieval, and you're like, that doesn't match.
It's
and
like
you just get these conflicting things by looking at it.
It's quippy is the thing. It's like the Joss Whedon
Well, they're
style.
trying very hard to be quippy for sure.
Where just like if I saw a real dragon, I wouldn't be like, oh man, this again. I would be like, this is insane. This is I'm very afraid right now. I have to work to do this to not die. I don't know. It just seems bad to me. And
also, like, I'm not necessarily opposed to like internal monologues, but like when your character speaks to themselves a lot, which happens really frequently in video games,
Yeah.
I know, but like sometimes there's a tendency to go overboard with that. And this is very clearly a case of being overboard. Like Horizon Forbidden West, like Aloy's talking to herself throughout that entire game, and it does get to be a little obnoxious, but like her personality is like extremely subdued by comparison to the character in Forspoken. So it's like it's not as off-putting as just even a brief trailer for Forspoken. So
I just not everything has to be jokes, you know? Like it can just be a game and maybe there's a fun side character, but it doesn't have to be a comedy to like be something the youth are into, I feel. I don't know. But Twitter really was like roasting it. You can find this article we posted in the show notes has a bunch of examples of people parodying it, which is very funny to me. But I don't know, man. I just I don't know if this game is going to be well received.
I don't think it will be. And there is a phrase that's used in like writing and like film and like novel criticism called economy of words, where basically you use fewer words to say more. And I feel like a lot of video game writers have not learned that. It's a good practice that more writers for video games should learn. And I feel like a good example of that would be something like Elden Ring earlier this year, where there's the character doesn't talk. And even like speaking to, it's maybe an extreme the other way, where maybe it doesn't say quite enough, but it's like much better than something like Forspoken.
So TBD on that. I don't remember when it's being released, but when it is released, I'm sure we'll talk about it. You probably won't buy it, right?
I don't know. I think they pushed it back to next year because they wanted to polish it. Plus, they were like, they knew God of War was coming out later that fall, and they were trying to, you know, clear a wide path for that, I guess.
Should I play Fortnite?
I've played very little of Fortnite, and I only played it when building had been taken out.
That's a permanent mode now, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and they just tweeted, Fortnite tweeted that Dragon Ball Z is coming to Fortnite next week, and that's exciting to me. I enjoyed Dragon Ball Z, and I have a new computer, and I don't know, like, should I play Fortnite? I feel like I've been seeing a lot of articles now of like, hey, Fortnite is good again, or now for the first time. I don't know. This zero build mode is interesting to me.
The only reason I played it was because I had heard that there was a zero build mode that you could play, and also like at the time I feel like my sister or somebody was playing it, and I ended up downloading it just so I could play with her. But I don't enjoy the build mode version of Fortnite.
But if I could drop into a non-build mode and like, I actually don't know how it works, pick up an item and become Goku. I don't know if that's how it works, but that's interesting to me, I have to say.
I feel like there are skins that you just like, the next season of Fortnite or whatever will just have like, you can unlock skin, because you can play as Spider-Man and like all these different like Marvel characters.
Yeah, but isn't it like, I mean, I don't know enough about Fortnite, but isn't it like where, like when they added Spider-Man, they also added like web slinging?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how it works either, because I've only played a little bit of it.
I think it is like when there's events, the skins happen, but also there's like items in the world that you can pick up that like lend themselves to whatever. Because I remember when, what was it? Some movie came out. It was Thanos. I think like you could become Thanos and like crazy stuff would happen, or like you could become Iron Man and like have the suit or something. But I think definitely you'll be able to do a Kamehameha in Fortnite, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, just from the tweet that has like the dragon in it, I wonder if maybe it's like you can find all the Dragon Balls and
Ooh,
summon the
that's
dragon.
interesting.
I don't know what you would do after that, but maybe you get some cool drops.
I don't know, man. I got this new computer and I have not really like put it through its paces yet. So maybe I will download Fortnite. I don't know if I'm going to do that.
I was gonna say I know what game you should download, but
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Zach, I opened up my notes app on my phone to collect stuff for today's podcast, and I forgot that I wrote this down. But there's a new game making the rounds, a new demo. I don't even know if it's a released demo, but there's a game called Squirrel with a Gun, and someone has used Unreal Engine 5 to make a super. I mean, the GIFs in this are a little bit low resolution, but to actually look at it on YouTube, it's like a super high resolution squirrel model, like very realistic looking squirrel that can just pick up guns, and I guess is terrorizing a community, similar to Goat Simulator. But this looks crazy to me.
I mean, I opened the link to the article you put in the show notes, and I'm just seeing this GIF of this squirrel just like standing on its hind legs, holding a pistol and pointing it at somebody who's like freaking out and running away.
You should look at a YouTube video of this because it is crazy. They talk a little bit about how it is like an Unreal Engine 5 game, and you can get real close to that squirrel, and it looks very realistic. But it is also just like standing on its hind legs, holding a gun, and wandering around. I don't know what the plot of this game is. I assume you're...
I mean, it's probably something... It could be as simple as like Goat Simulator. Like
I think it probably is that. Yeah, but Squirrel with a Gun, I thought I would put this on people's radars. It's weird.
Because it's hilarious.
You can wishlist it on Steam. Here, I'll put something else into the show notes. I'll drop it in. This is another great little GIF you can take a look at. Just kind of like an overview of things you can do in the game. But it's weird. It's a weird little game.
It seems that way, but yeah, it does like it's not going for like a cartoony art style at all. It's going for like photorealism.
A weird little game that I thought everyone should be aware of.
I mean, just seeing like a squirrel walk around on its hind legs to begin with is a little goofy, but especially when it's like carrying a pistol or an Uzi, it is pretty hilarious.
And then the last piece of news, which I actually just saw right before we started recording, is Stadia finally added play from search, which was like one of the big promises of Stadia, where they always used to say like, oh yeah, you can just like click a link and start immediately playing a game. And now you can kind of do that. If you search for like Destiny 2, you can, in like the Google search results, it'll show you like top stories. It'll like show you like Bungie.net. But then also there's just a play button. You can just click play and it will pop up in your browser and you'll just be playing Destiny 2.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to get more of those features. It's a little, speaking of what we're going to talk about later in the show, it's a little No Man's Sky like, where they almost like, they didn't understand that some of the features that they were talking about that they were going to have eventually were like, you know, years down the line, not necessarily stuff that was going to be there at launch. And they didn't realize that if they said it, you know, during some sort of press conference, people were going to expect that it would be there day one.
Yeah. Or like within the first year.
Yeah. And so they didn't make it clear that some of these things that there are like notes on a chalkboard somewhere, or like they're, you know, aspirational features that the team will be working on to bring to Stadia over time. Not necessarily stuff that will be there right at launch. And so it's slowly getting more and more of those features that they talked about. And I feel like at one point, I don't know if they have added this or not, but they talked about how you'd be able to like see a video for a game in YouTube and just like immediately click a play button from YouTube and just be directly in the game.
Yeah.
They talked about that with like live streams of games. Like if you're watching a streamer play a game, and there'll just be like a button that you can click to just like jump right into the game.
Yeah.
And probably right into the exact spot that player was at. So you have like a similar situation once you do get into the game. I don't know if all of that stuff has even made it into Stadia at this point yet, but
a lot of it has not, I don't think.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right, but it's good that more and more features are coming to Stadia, and it shows that they're not done working on it, and that it's not like dead in the water as much as some people would say it is. I spent a good amount of time playing ESO on Stadia earlier this year, and it's still like it functions as well as it ever did. So I don't know. I have not been sub to pro anymore. Like once there was like that, it sort of leaked that they were almost diminishing their sort of investment in Stadia a little bit. And they were sort of moving more towards like, I forget what they call it. Maybe it was like white labeling or something like that.
Yeah, white boxing or whatever. White labeling.
Yeah, once they did that, I kind of was like, it doesn't seem like you're going to continue putting the resources into this that you need to in order for this to be successful. And so I just like I canceled my pro sub after that. But I mean, I still have a lot of games on the platform, and when I do feel like jumping back into a game like ESO, I feel like a subscription service like Stadia is like a really good spot for like an ongoing game of service MMO.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so that is still like my chosen platform if I do want to go back and play more ESO. And it would be a good place to play Destiny 2 as well if I wanted to get back into that. But
yeah,
have not been so called lately.
Let's talk about the games of the week. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Cult of the Lamb came out today. I find the art style to be very similar to that Don't Starve game, where sort of you're kind of a 2D sprite on a 3D or like 2.5D, almost isometric. Not isometric though, because it's like a weird cartoon style.
Almost Happy Tree Friends.
Yeah.
Like happy cutesy animals, but in like sort of a dark and almost kind of gross world.
Yeah, it's like I saw an article that was like, oh, it's like a dark Animal Crossing, but I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, it has like cute animal friends, but other than that, I think the gameplay is very different. I
think they're saying that because from what I've seen, there is like the roguelite sort of Hades style like dungeon crawler thing where you're going and you're doing the combat, and if you die, you jump back out to the hub world. But the hub world is where they get like the Animal Crossing stuff, where you're sort of building out like a town almost, and you have all these like you're a cult leader basically, so you have all your followers there, and you're sort of like managing that town and like taking care of all the people there because you don't want them to like turn on you and like dislike you or whatever. And so another interesting like comparison I heard was it's similar in some ways to something like Stardew Valley, where you're sort of managing like a town or like a farm if you're looking at Stardew Valley. But then in Stardew Valley, of course, you go to like the mine and there's combat, and then you come back, but you're not necessarily doing that all the time. And actually the like town management stuff ends up being a bigger portion of the game than maybe you thought initially, because you're thinking of it like a Hades like game where it's a roguelike. But I think it is a little bit more of that Animal Crossing / Stardew Valley like management sim, but then on top of it there's like a pretty compelling like roguelite combat system in it.
I have to say, this is not something, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the art style or just like the style of gameplay, but it's not something I'm probably going to pick up. Are you interested in this at all?
I don't think so. I'm kind of like you. I think I'm not particularly drawn to the art style, and also I'm not a big like Animal Crossing slash roguelike like Hades style game
Mm.
guy. So like I think the combination of those two is like sort of a really cool thing for some people because they like both of those types of games. But I don't know. I've watched some gameplay of it and I can't seem to get into it. So I think I will pass on this one.
So the other thing that came out this week that I feel came out of nowhere is Tower of Fantasy. We texted about it a little bit.
Yeah, this was not on my radar at all until
Nor
you
was it on
mentioned
mine.
it.
So this is, I think, a cheap knockoff of Genshin Impact. I think we're going to see a lot of knockoffs of Genshin Impact because it has been so successful. And this one is more sci-fi than Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is more of a fantasy magic type of thing. And this one is more like mechanical, like robots and hackers and whatnot.
I think
Laser
it's also a
swords.
little more MMO.
Yes, it is. It's
Than
no longer.
Genshin.
It's shared world and cross-platform. So unlike Genshin Impact, where you can, I think if you get to like level 16, you can like join your friend's game and do co-op. This right off the bat is an MMO. You're going to see other people in the world. You're not just one character. There's apparently very deep character customization as far as creating your character. And I've been getting a lot of ads for it. I don't know. This is something I have almost downloaded a couple of times, but right now you can't download it on Steam. You can only download it like off the website. They have a special launcher for it. Supposedly it is coming to Steam in Q4 of 2022.
That was the way Genshin was as well. I don't know
Really?
if that's still the case, but
I think that is still the case. I don't think it's on Steam right now, but I don't know about this. I downloaded Genshin. I flirted with it for a while, and I finally downloaded it. And I love the art style of it because it is just Breath of the Wild. But I didn't love like swapping between characters and like having to like add elements to things. I loved like the enemy design and stuff and
well, yeah,
exploration.
Genshin's a little like kind of a hero collector as well, which
Yes.
is pretty common on like mobile, and it is like also a mobile game. And that's the same with Tower Fantasy, which is also a mobile game.
Yes, mobile
And-
first, I think.
Yeah, so that you can actually download on mobile right now, whereas I think you have to specifically go to the website to download it on PC.
It does.
And I don't think it's on console yet.
It isn't, and it does fix some of the things that I didn't like in my like 4 or 5 hours I played with Genshin Impact, where I didn't like swapping between characters. And with this, I think you are still collecting characters, but the main thing you're collecting is actually the weapons the characters use. So you're always your character, unless you're. I think you can. There's something called like a simulacrum where you can use skins of different characters for different effects, but you can be your own character, which I like. And there's also vehicles in this one. I always thought Genshin would have been better, like exploration-wise, if I could summon some sort of like horse to ride around.
Yeah, if you had a mount
And with
of
this,
some
there's a
sort.
bunch of different ones. You have like a hoverboard you can get, or like just a pair of mechanical walking legs, I think, that you can sit on, and like a motorcycle and things like that. But I don't know. It's weird because I was like, oh, I should learn information about this. But IGN and like all the normal sources that would have like a preview video, I feel like haven't even put videos out about it yet. It's all
Yeah.
just like small YouTubers talking about its differences and similarities to Genshin Impact. So I don't know. I feel like it hasn't really hit the mainstream yet, even though I guess it did have a ton of people sign up for pre-launch beta.
Yeah, it's weird because I also like after you mentioned it, I looked it up and I was expecting to find like the big gaming outlets
Yeah.
having something on it, but they had nothing. And it is just like
It's weird.
smaller
There's like
YouTubers.
barely any news about it, I feel like. And that is something that's made me hesitant to download it yet, just because I want to see. I mean, I've watched a bunch of videos on it, and it seems fine. It definitely is very buggy right now, I think. And it is definitely a knockoff of Genshin Impact.
And I wonder about like the gacha system and like the microtransactions and
Yeah.
what that's like. I always worry about that with these free to play games, but also I feel like there's not that many people streaming it. Like there are some, and I was watching a different streamer who was playing Cult of the Lamb because I was trying to get a sense of what that game was like, and they were just asking them, why aren't you playing Tower of Fantasy. So I feel like it's out there and people know about it and are like wanting content, but like I guess none of the big outlets have done anything with it yet.
I'm
So
going
I
to
don't
hold
know.
off on it right now. I'm not going to download it, but I don't know. It's something that's on my radar. I wanted to like Genshin so much, but it just like was not my jam for some reason, which was a bummer to me. And I think that style of game does work where it's like exploration based and you're collecting like characters or weapons or whatever. But I don't know. Just something about Genshin Impact was not what I was interested in. And this maybe is more towards that. I also, something else on my radar is that Zone of Zendless End or whatever.
Zenless Zone Zero.
Zenless Zone Zero, yeah, that's interesting to me, and they released some gameplay of that, but I don't know when that's coming out, and that's also not really an MMO. It's more in the line of Genshin, where you're not creating a character, you're just collecting characters. But you can be a big bear in it, I think, which is cool. But yeah, something to be aware of. I'm gonna continue to follow news on it. And I might talk about it again if it becomes more interesting.
Yeah, did you follow that? What is that Smash-like game with like
Multiverses?
WB character? Yeah, Multiverses. Did you follow that at all?
I have been seeing a bunch of crazy TikToks about that. I think there are a bunch of really good, either there are a bunch of really good mods for it, or that game is insane. Because I see a bunch of people selecting characters that I would not expect to see. Like, I saw someone select to play as an Evangelion, like the mech from Evangelion, and I don't think that's in the game. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it is.
But that seems crazy. It seems like the modding scene is really popping off for that game. But no, I haven't really seen anything else about it.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I bet it would, because obviously Smash Brothers is not on PC. So
Yeah.
people, if they want, I mean, I'm sure somebody out there is going to mod in all of the Smash roster.
Oh, I'm sure.
Versus. But yeah, that would be interesting to see.
Zach, it's time.
Time to talk about Stray.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about Stray first. You completed it. What are your
did
overall
complete it.
thoughts?
Overall, I liked it. I think I know why you didn't like the ending. And I do think it's a good looking game. Visually, it's very, very well done. And I like the cat, obviously, and it's very well animated. And I like that it didn't overstay its welcome. It's like not a super long game. I feel like I want more of those like smaller, like you can play it and complete it in a weekend, as opposed to like, you know, these big, extensive, like 60-hour games. But
Let's get into spoilers for it, specifically about the ending. I don't know. I feel like it got too, like, it really, speaking of not overstaying its welcome, it really ended just like quickly, I felt. Because
it did. Actually, so I was playing it, a bunch of it last night, and I got to the control room.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize where I was at in the control room, like where that was at, you know, in terms of like the entire runtime of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'm tired, it's late, I'm going to bed. So I went to bed, and I got up this morning. I was like, all right, let's see if I can finish this before we start recording. And I like had to just play like for a few minutes to get through that control room sequence, and that was it. I was like, oh, it's like over already. So it does end almost a little bit abruptly, I would say.
I think so. I think it could have standed to have like maybe 30 more minutes of gameplay, but I mean, it's fine that your robot died. Obviously, I would prefer that not happen, and it
that was the thing I thought you would not like about it.
I was hoping he would get like downloaded into a body or something, but
Yeah.
especially because there were all those like blank slate robots around in the control room area, I thought he would just like grab one of those that isn't like a real entity. But
but also he's like the last human.
yeah, which is like a bummer. Like that should continue, and if you were gonna have a second game, I don't know if they're even thinking about that. But the thing that really boned me out was I really wanted the cat to get back to its family. Like I was hoping the door would open and she would go out, and then like she would see like another, like, you know, traces of cats, and even if it was just like traces of cats, and run after them. But that's it. You just like you don't even get to see the outside really at all. You just like
Yeah.
you see her in silhouette, and then she just leaves. And
I was half expecting that as well, where you would get to the outside and you would be reunited with the family that you lost at the beginning of the game.
that would be great. That would have been a perfect
or at the very
ending.
least, like you say, where you find like signs of it and you can tell like, okay, the cat's on the trail.
The
for
adventure
family.
continues.
And yeah, the adventure continues. Stray 2, come back and like go on this journey to find your family.
But no, it just it ends very unceremoniously. I mean, there's a little bit of a cutscene where like the city's opening up and you see like previous people that you were hanging around with. But yeah, I liked it. It was a good game, and I like cats a lot, so that was fun. But the ending, I felt, left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, and I want to say they didn't really get to a point where I ever found the puzzles that compelling either.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they could do more with that, or come up with a way to make those a little bit more interesting. It does feel very linear.
Yeah.
And actually, when you first get into like the slums area, I was like, oh, is this opening up and it's going to be like an open world type of a thing? Like just in this like town. And it sort of is, but it's like a small area and there's not really that much exploration to do. So I was a little bit bummed about that. Yeah, it was my favorite part when I thought it was going to be kind of like a big open world town for you to explore and find stuff. But it kind of was that, but it was also kind of not that. And then you almost immediately go back into more linear pathways.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, the world was very beautiful, especially that. So there's the slums, and then you go to that tree for a while, and then there's like the upper level part. The upper level part was also very cool and cyberpunk and just like interestingly designed.
Yeah.
And it was cool to be in the control room and like look out over the whole town. Like that was also really cool. But I don't know. I hope they make a second game or something, because I don't want that to be the end of the cat story.
I did think they had come up with like a cool, like very interesting world and universe. And yeah, I would have liked a little bit more out of it. And that's why I think maybe a second game, they could like really expand on that. And yeah, hopefully like complete the cat story.
Call it Strays, and it's about multiple cats.
Oh, cat collector.
Yeah, some sort of cat gotcha system. Free to play.
Free to play, and you pay money to get different cats.
That actually would make a bunch of money.
I'm sure it would.
My girlfriend used to play a game called Neko Atsume. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's one of those games where you have to. I think there is a way to pay money, but she never paid money for it. It's just like a game where you log in every day on your phone, and your like different cats show up to your like dojo almost. It's like a little like outdoor peace garden place. And there's like a fat one. There's a bunch of fat ones. They all have names. I think there's also just like. Did you ever watch those keyboard videos by that Wildcat guy?
Keyboard cat?
No, well, that's also very good. But there's that one guy who makes keyboards, and he has a lot of like Neko Atsume, like little figurines. But Zach, I'd like for you to pitch No Man's Sky to me again. You've been playing a ton of it, and I'm so close to clicking that purchase for $60 button.
Well, so we were talking about it before we started recording, but I played a bunch of it last weekend on Steam Deck, because you had said that somebody at like your work or whatever was talking about how they were playing it on Steam Deck and were really into it. And I was like, maybe I should give it more of a shot on Steam Deck, because I really only logged in just to like see how it ran. And then I was going to go back to PC because I wanted to play it with mouse and keyboard. And then I ended up being at like family's house on Sunday last weekend. And so we were just like hanging out watching TV and stuff. And so I played a bunch of No Man's Sky on Steam Deck. And I was like, not only is it much easier to control your ship with like thumbsticks and like the
Mm.
controller, that I think I am just gonna play this with a controller.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so now I'm just to keep it consistent between like when I play it on PC and when I play it on Steam Deck, I am just using a controller and using the the controls on the Steam Deck,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great. It's great for that. It runs well on Steam Deck, and obviously it plays great on PC. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. There's a lot to do because they just keep adding to it, and like I've done some stuff with the freighter, like which is basically you're building out sort of a base in space, and you can like summon that,
Yes,
or
that's
like
my. I have a ton of questions about that actually.
okay,
So is that always in one place, or can you drive it?
you can drive it. So just like with your ship, if you wanna jump to the next system, you can do that directly from the freighter.
Can you land it on a planet?
No, I think it does have to stay in space, but that's why you have your smaller ship.
Mm-hmm.
But you can call it, like if you're on a planet and you're like, oh man, I'm out of inventory space. Let me just call my freighter in, and it'll just like come into orbit. And I think that might be close enough. You might have to get like an upgrade for it, but you should be able to start stashing stuff in your freighter storage remotely, I think. But yeah, that's a cool feature. And then so you can get like multiple frigates that you can send out on like away missions basically, and they'll over time they'll complete those and come back and give you resources and money and stuff. One of them was the Normandy from Mass Effect, but I think I missed that event when that was available. So I don't think I can get that, unfortunately, but I would love to have it. They have living ships now, which makes me think of Farscape.
Yeah.
But
Oh, so can you get a living freighter?
I think so. I'm not sure because I haven't delved too much into the freighters, and like I haven't like other than going to the like the social hub space, the anomaly. I have not seen them just like out in the wild, but I'm sure that eventually I'll come across them as far as like the living ships go. But yeah, I also you can there was an update that made it so that you could like make the animals that you find on the different planets your companions. And so
Really?
you can like feed them, and then you can pet them, and you can ride them, and you can like save them as companions. And then when you go to a different planet, you can like summon them and call them in so that you have your companions with you.
Whoa.
And some of them are flying, so you can fly on your companion pet. It's very cool. You can have up to 6 of them. And I found one that was like a giant bug, but it could fly. And so I saved it as a companion, and I was just like flying around this planet on this big old bug thing. It was pretty funny. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. As if you like animals, you can there's like a whole
Love animals.
like animal thing that you can do. And then yeah, there's like a base building. I was talking to a friend earlier this week about it because he had played No Man's Sky at launch, and like he saw all the stuff that was being added to it, but he was like, I don't think I would have time to go back and devote to this because there's like so much to it. And I was like, well, there is a creative mode that you can play as opposed to like the normal mode or like the survival modes. And creative mode frees you from having to like gather resources and make money, and you can just do whatever you want basically. So if you wanted to like go find a paradise planet and like build a giant like base, and that's all you really cared about doing in the game, like that could be your version of No Man's Sky. And you just like you have all the blueprints already unlocked. You don't have to like pay for the resources or anything like that, or go gather the resources. You can just make what you want. And if you like go to a space station and you see like a really cool ship, you just claim it. That's yours, and you can now use it. So like there is a creative mode that sort of frees you from like all the normal constraints of the game,
Hmm.
that I've actually thought about starting a game of that just to like try it out and see if I like it. But the new thing, it's not really new. I guess it came out maybe last year. Is Expeditions, and I want to try that. I might start the one that's active right now this weekend and see how far I can get. Like you have like a certain amount of time. I don't know exactly how much time is left, but basically it starts you with like a fresh save, a fresh character, and there's like a bunch of different objectives to do, and so you just go try to. It's sort of like the seasonal content, I feel like, for this type of a game. But yeah, for people who've been playing a long time, and they've basically done everything on their main save. There's like this expedition thing where it's like it sort of gets you a new save, and it's like, hey, go do all this stuff, and you're traveling around, and you have a bunch of little objectives to complete. And as you knock those out, and you complete the expedition, you get like rewards that you can then claim on your main save.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so you can have like multiple saves. Like you could have a creative mode save, a normal mode save, and then you start your expedition. And then I think at the end of it, maybe it'll allow you also to like save that expedition save as like a normal save so that you could continue playing that one if you wanted to. So there's like a lot of, and it also like it gets rid of the sort of introduction like tutorial stuff at the very beginning because it assumes that you kind of already know what you're doing. So yeah, there's like a lot of cool stuff in it now, and I can't seem to get enough of it. I just keep playing it for hours on end, and it's very satisfying.
I might check it out. My girlfriend is away for the entire week on business, and so I'm gonna have a lot of free time in the evenings. So I might, I don't know. I think I might bite the bullet on it and pay the $60.
I think you should. I think you'll be into it because I know you like animals, and a big part of the game is discovering animals and making them your pets. And another big thing that you like is Minecraft, where you're like gathering resources and building stuff, and that's another big part of No Man's Sky. You just also get to like travel the universe as you're doing so it seems like a lot of things, and I know you like sci-fi and like space travel and all that stuff, so this sort of combines like all the things that you're into maybe into one game, and I feel like you would enjoy it.
Well, we'll know next week on the podcast. I will report back if I have done it.
Okay. And hopefully, I mean, there's always co-op that we can try as well. Because I know, like, you were telling me about that, like, Satisfactory game.
I love that game, yeah.
Where, like, you and some of your friends had, like, a shared thing that you guys were building. And, like, even when, like, your friends weren't on, you could go on and, like, add some more stuff to it. And then you'd get off and your other friends would get on. They'd just keep working on it. I feel like you can do that in No Man's Sky as well, where you can basically set up bases that you can both be working on, and you can like create like the mining thing, this mining operation to mine the different resources and have them go into like your storage containers and all of that, so that you can like make a bunch of money, but you can also have all the resources you need for all the building that you're going to do. And
that is very enticing.
You can there's a version of Satisfactory to be had in No Man's Sky as well.
Zach, I watched a movie last night.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
It was I want you to try to guess the movie, actually.
Oh gosh. What genre?
Whimsical.
Whimsical. What's the big actor that's in it?
Unknown to me.
Okay. Is it a US movie?
It isn't.
Is it a Japanese movie?
No.
Is it a comedy?
Let's see if you can get it in 10. So you've asked me, is it whimsical? Who's the main person? Let's say you've done 4 so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it has comedic elements for sure. So you have 5 questions left.
Was it made before or after 2010?
Before.
Was it made in the 90s?
Yes.
I'm not really getting any closer to this.
You're getting very close, actually.
Okay. Can I ask what the country of origin is?
China.
China. Whimsical. 90s. And comedic elements.
That's right. You have 2 questions left.
Is Stephen Chow in it?
No.
Oh, I guess I already knew that because you didn't recognize the person that was in it.
You have 1 question left.
Oh, gosh. I'm not going to get this. Is this a movie known to me?
It is.
Okay, well, is it... I want to say the right one. Is it Chungking Express?
Zach, you got it. In exactly 10 questions.
Well, I try. So you finally watched it.
It's on HBO Max. A bunch of Wong Kar-wai movies are on HBO Max. And I was just like, today's the day.
And how did you like it?
I liked it. It had some things that I thought were a little crazy in it. But I don't know. Let's talk about it. Because it's one of your favorite movies, right?
It is. I'm a huge fan of Wong Kar-wai. And so I like all of his movies. And I've always said Chungking Express is maybe the most accessible of his movies. Like,
what about My Blueberry Nights?
That's the worst of his movies. And sadly, for the longest time, that was the only movie he had ever made that you had ever seen.
It's true. I loved the style of it. I mean, 90s, early 2000s, like Hong Kong, China, is like a wonderful aesthetic that I cannot get enough of. Like, it looks beautiful on film. Hallways, like escalators, outside, inside. I feel like it's impossible to shoot a bad scene in that era and location.
I mean, for sure, Hong Kong is maybe the most like photogenic, like one of the best places to film any sort of city-based movie.
It was weird to me. So both of the main characters are cops, but it does not come up.
We should say it's sort of told in 2 parts. There's like a first part, like a first half of the movie, and then it sort of does like a literal handoff to the second part of the movie.
I would say the first like 1/8 of the movie is the first story, and then the last the first half is much shorter than the second part for sure. And so it's interesting that this movie was made like sort of quick and cheaply because it came up as something. So Wong Kar-wai was working on Ashes of Time, which is this like big, expansive, like wuxi film from like early 90s. And it was like they were bogged down in the desert shooting this like really tough movie to make. And so he was like, we need a break. And so he got some of his friends together and they made Chungking Express just to have something to release for the studio. And then they went back and finished Ashes of Time. At least I think that's the sequence of events. I could definitely see it being cheap because there's like maybe 5 locations.
Yeah. And so it centers around, there's the Midnight Express, which is like this fast food place. And so you kind of meet like the owner of the shop and of course Faye Wong, who's like a famous like singer songwriter.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so at the end of the movie the music is Faye Wong singing. And it's like she did like a bunch of covers of like, oh gosh, what is the name of that zombie song? What is
By the Cranberries.
Yeah, so she did like, I think that's the one at the trailer.
Yes.
Or at the credits, the end of the movie.
Yeah. They do it. I think they do it before in the movie as well.
Yeah, at one point they do it earlier in the movie. But she's like also known for like her covers of like Cocteau Twins songs from like the 80s. But yeah, so she's a famous like singer-songwriter, and this was like her first like acting gig. And so she's not like a professional actress, but like she appeared in like several Wong Kar-wai movies. So and so she works there, but she's not in like the first part of it. The first part is I guess they're kind of unified in theme by the fact that there are these two cops that are like they've recently had a breakup, and so they're sort of looking for new love, but also kind of not. Or they find it one way or another.
It's weird that the fact that they're cops never really is pertinent to the story.
Yeah, it's just like, it just happens to be. It's not like significant detail.
Especially because like the first lady, the blonde wig lady, is like a criminal in some way.
Yeah.
And it never really comes up. I for a second, I thought, just because it was like late at night and I was just like, how is this going to work out? I thought there was some sort of time thing going on where Faye was going to in the future be the blonde wig lady, because both of them are always wearing sunglasses and the blonde wig lady is a little older. But that was not the case. The stories do not intersect.
They are happening concurrently.
They're happening concurrently.
Which you can tell because there's like a couple of shots in there, like from the first part, where like if you go back, and you might have to rewatch it to actually notice it, but there's like a shot where I forget which character it is. It's one of the two characters from like the first part that are like standing outside the store, and you literally see Faye Wong's character carrying out like a giant stuffed animal from the shop that she's going to put in the cop's apartment, because in the second part of the movie, she ends up like sort of going into his apartment a lot and like cleaning up for him and all of this, and he doesn't know that it's happening, but she like, I don't know, is sort of helping him get over his previous girlfriend by like getting rid of all her stuff.
I don't know. She kind of was doing that, but she kind of was just like at one point she comes up to him and she's like, "Hey, I got you a bunch of lychee nuts." And he was like, "I don't really want these." And she was like, "Well, maybe a friend will like them." And then like smash cuts at her just like,
she's the friend.
Yeah, she's the friend.
She
she's
got
just, like,
them for herself.
chilling out in his apartment eating them. And like, how's that helping him? She just like is.
It was funny because she got them. She's like, "Here, I got these for you." She's like, I don't want them." He's like, "Well, they're for a friend then." And he's like, "Okay." And she's obviously referring to herself like later when she ends up in his apartment. So I thought that was funny.
I did too. Yeah, it was good. But yeah, it's I liked it. It's been a while. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but in high school, me and my friends every weekend would go to our local Blockbuster, which was directly adjacent to a KFC Taco Bell. And we would rent a game and a movie from the foreign film section that we thought looked cool. And so in my youth, and then we'd walk over and get Taco Bell, KFC. But in my youth, I watched a lot of a lot of Asian, like Hong Kong movies and Japanese movies and some Korean movies, but all of the Korean movies seemed to be very sad. So we stopped renting Korean movies. Except for Attack the Gas Station, which I cannot recommend more. A very fun, zany movie. And take place, nobody dies, and it's not some sort of crazy morality play where everyone is very sad and kills themselves at the end. But I don't know, man. Just I think you're the same way. I love that early 90s Hong Kong aesthetic, especially like late nights. Most of this movie takes place at nighttime, at least in the first half. Late night, and you diners.
Can tell even just with like the clothing, like it's very 90s.
Yeah. It's great. It's I love the aesthetic of it, and I was gonna ask you.
Well, before you ask me, I was going to say, like, speaking of clothing and it being like related to the 90s, it's also like his cop uniform. That's like the old, like, Hong Kong is still a British colony style
really?
cop uniform. And so, interestingly, one of the sort of themes underlying in Chungking Express is like the desire to sort of leave Hong Kong as China is sort of set to take over Hong Kong, and it's set to go back, which is one of the reasons why like California Dreaming is such a like thing in the movie, and how she's always talking about wanting to leave. So that's sort of like underlying theme of the movie that I thought was interesting, that I don't like. It's not necessary to know to understand the movie, but like it's one of those little extra details if you kind of understand the culture and what was going on at the time.
Wait, so is this when it was shot, was it supposed to be in modern day, or was this a like somewhat of a period piece that was taking place like 10 years prior?
No, it was modern day. So like the changeover that happened, I want to say in like 97. And this movie I think was made in like 94 or like,
I think you're right,
like
yeah.
a few years before that actually happened. And so people knew it was coming. And so there was like a desire to like have an exodus away from Hong Kong because of that. So that's sort of like one of the underlying themes of the movie. But if you saw this movie,
what's the next one
you should watch is Fallen Angels. So Fallen Angels is sort of the unofficial sort of not sequel. Like they're not really tied together, but they're like similar in style. Like Fallen Angels is a little bit more comedic, and it's also like at nighttime in Hong Kong in the 90s, and it's like you have one, like it's sort of two different stories happening, but they're a little bit more intertwined as opposed to like, here's the first part, here's the second part. So they kind of cut back and forth between the two. And you still have that sort of like seedy element where like one of the characters is like sort of, you know, this underworld, like sort of almost bad guy because he's like an assassin. And then the second part is also like, kind of a little bit of a romance, or like this guy who has sort of is dealing with like, you know, the loss of, or like a breakup of some sort. But the I forget his name. I like the actor a lot. I've seen him in a lot of other things, but the actor from the first part of Chungking Express.
Oh, so I just was looking at so Fallen Angels is available on HBO Max. Is it Hee Zui-woo?
No.
Takashi Kanashiro?
Yeah. Takeshi Kenshiro. So he is in Fallen Angels as well, but he's not playing the same character. That's why it's not official, like not actually. Like people just consider it sort of part two because they're kind of somewhat similar in like style or whatever. So he's in, and he, I think. Like, so he's taken like a vow of silence basically. And so he like is a mute character. And so because of that, he like can't get jobs. And so at night when stores and things have closed, he like breaks in and like works for them. And he like will like, he breaks in, I think at one point to like an ice cream truck, and like he will force passersby to like let him serve them. And it's like,
an economy of words.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like played up for humor. Like it's a more funny movie than Chungking Express, and it can be a little more silly and over the top in some ways, but it still like has that like that heart that you have with Wong Kar-wai movies. So that would be the second one I would watch if you liked Chungking Express.
I did. So I probably will watch this tonight.
Sounds good, yeah. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Maybe we'll do maybe this is Wong Kar-wai month on the podcast.
That would be cool. I would be into that.
Unofficial. There is a fire happening in my neighborhood, it seems like.
What?
I don't know if you could hear all the sirens that are happening.
Oh, I can't, but I'm sure I'll hear them on the recording when I'm editing this later.
I don't know where this is. Oh, it's close, I think. Usually you're the one with the sirens in the background.
I know. Well, because I live downtown, so like there's a police station and a fire station like right nearby, so they're always going down First Ave.
It is crazy. So I've lived in this neighborhood for about 2 years, almost exactly 2 years actually, because I moved in August. And in that period, I think like 3 houses have burned completely down.
Really?
And it's like a small neighborhood.
That's concerning.
It's weird. It's never anybody in my side of the neighborhood, but it's weird. Man, these sirens are very close actually.
Was it like your next door neighbor?
I don't think so. If that's the case, my house would also be on fire. But I will investigate this after we finish up. I think the sirens have stopped, so I'm going to assume the fire is over.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, Wong Kar-wai month, everybody. Tune in next week for the second installment of us talking about a Wong Kar-wai movie.
If you would like to play along, just go to HBO Max and watch Chungking Express and Fallen Angels.
Yes, and it seems like I've heard you talk about In the Mood for Love as well, and that is also on HBO Max.
That one's great. That one, like, when you watch that, just, like, be watching the cinematography because it's amazing. It's one of the best movies I've seen in terms of, like, cinematography ever. I don't know if you'll like that one as much because that one doesn't really, it's not like a comedy. It's more of a straight, like, sort of romance, but like a big thing with Wong Kar-wai is unrequited love, and so it's not like necessarily a happy romance. So but that one's about 2 characters that like they move into the same sort of apartment building. It's very like drenched in like 1960s Hong Kong because that was when like Wong Kar-wai I guess moved from like Shanghai to Hong Kong, and so he was like sort of reminiscing about what that was like. So it is a little bit more of a period piece as well. But like his wife is always away and her husband is always away, and they eventually figure out that those two are having an affair with each other, and so they end up becoming like a support system for each other, but they don't want to like actually engage in an affair themselves because that would make them no better than their cheating, spouse. So they don't go that far, but they are sort of there for each other.
Interesting.
But it's a very good movie, and like I said, like the colors and the cinematography of it are pretty astounding.
Well, tune in later this month. Maybe we'll talk about it.
And until then, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube at Starside Cafe. You can go to our website at starsidecafe.com, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.